Welcome back to the Arise interview. I'm Charles Aniagolu. Now, Nigerian politics is gradually heating up as 2023, the year of the country's next presidential election, approaches. The main political parties will be facing off against each other in the battle for votes. And for a taster of what might be happening then, voters in Anambra State go to the polls in November later this year for governorship elections, after which preparations for the 2023 presidential ballot will be within sight. So the Anambra election is a potential bellwether for that contest, and the main political parties are keen to use that governorship poll to test the springboard that will launch their presidential campaigns into orbit. Well, for more on this, let's turn to the lawyer Godson Okoye, who ran for president in 2015 as a candidate of the United Democratic Party. He's now a governorship aspirant in Anambra State on the platform of the African Democratic Congress, or ADC. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Charlie.
So, is it important on its own, but also particularly significant, the Anambra State elections, not just as a test of how INEC will conduct that election, in other words, how free and fair it'll be, but as one of the big elections that will come ahead of the general election in 2023?
Well, thanks for a good question. Anambra being a very key state in the southeast, and in the southern part of Nigeria particularly, the election in Anambra will be like a pointer to what is to come in 2023. And having said that, like you talked about democracy and free and fair, well, we hope INEC will live up to their billing, and then we hope the political class will also do the good job of educating the masses on how to conduct themselves in a very peaceful and calm manner in the choice of who becomes the governor, because who becomes governor of Anambra State will be a key thing in how 2023 will be. And having done that, all hands appear to be on deck, and because of, like I said, the very peculiar position of Anambra in the southeast geopolitics, it is a very crucial election, and it is a very important election in the conduct of political affairs of this country.
So what's your assessment of the quality of the main candidates who you may well have to face in that Anambra election if you become the candidate of your party?
Well, all the people joking for party positions in Anambra State, they are very top-rated people. They are intelligent, they are experienced, and they're savvy, but most of them have, most of them are carrying some baggages. Unlike some of us that you won't say, oh, I was an ex-DG, or I was an ex-minister, or I was a former this or former that, or a serving member of maybe Senate or House of Reps. But having said that, yes, they're all serious-minded people, but they are all thinking from within the box. So for Anambra State to move forward and for new things, the new Anambra State will envision, you have to think from outside the box. And that's why people like me are stepping in the race. And that's why we're coming in here to make the positive.
Right, but let's talk about the wider significance of what's going on in Anambra State, and what's at stake in that election. Has growing insecurity in the region, the greater prominence of the separatist group IPOB and its armed wing ESN, and the perception that there are lots of inflammatory statements leveled against the region, have all those things raised the stakes?
Definitely, because it touches on security, and which is the primary duty of any government. It is very, very important, and the stakes are high. The security situation, prior to this time, yes, we could give a pass mark to the governor, the sitting governor, that he's been able to do things, but with the way things are escalating, and with the negative perception from different sides, but that notwithstanding, that is not as if it's beyond redemption, and that's why people like us are coming in to say we have fresh ideas.
Yeah, but what are
on how
those
to-
ideas?
to
How would
stop
you
them.
cope with that insecurity situation if you were the governor of the state?
Well, some of them may be giving some opponents the whatever it needs to be like a kind of you don't plan your security in the marketplace. But having said that, engagement of the people is actually one of them. You're going to engage directly with the people. If you're governor of a state or you intend to be governor of a state, you should be able to engage the people you govern. You should be able to engage them, discuss with them, educate them, because the government is supposed to have is a repository of knowledge.
In other words, you would
Therefore, there must be
negotiate with a
It's
group
not about
that's been
negotiation.
prescribed by the federal government.
It's not negotiating. They are human beings. Even if you say it's IPOP, there are human beings that are the members.
No, I understand that, but I'm trying to be clear on what your position
But IPOP
is.
is not asking for negotiation with anybody. So the issue of negotiation is not even there.
No, but you talked
But
about the fact that you would have to engage with them. What sort of engagement
but you see,
are
when you
talking?
say IPOP, it's not everybody that is in Anambra State that is a member of IPOP.
I understand.
And of course, you are going to engage the majority, and then you always have the silent majority. You're going to educate them more and tell them reasons why there is always a better way to do what is being what they're asking about. So for us, engagement is still important. Dialogue is still important. And when you engage people, you get to have fresh insight in what is being discussed. It's not that you're negotiating. They're not asking for the governors to negotiate with them, no. I'm not aware of that. Maybe the governors may know. But for me, if I were to be governor, I wouldn't even wait for them to do that. I wouldn't even have waited for this to have escalated to this point before you have direct intervention. And of course, other agencies of other people from Anambra State that are within the government, both at the federal and at the state level.
But of course, you don't control the security apparatus in Nigeria as governor of the state. So you may well be doing something on one level, and the federal government, the police, federal police and federal troops have their own instructions on another level.
Well, to the extent that you both swore to uphold the same constitution, the president swore to the same constitution, the governor swore to uphold the same constitution, and of course in the exclusive and the concurrent list, you have intermingling of responsibilities and as in regards to security. So as governor, you will always interface with both the presidency and the people. Is that the governor is like the go-between, whether you have control of the police or not. The police is one arm of security. Okay, like in Anambra State, in most places you don't have...
Very briefly, because we have to take a break.
Yes, you don't have police stations anymore, but you don't have crimes escalating anyway. But the police stations are not there. So that you don't control the police doesn't mean you can't control what people do, or you can't influence what their behaviors come to. But for me, I say you must engage with them.
Okay, please stay with us. We want to talk with you some more. You're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our chat about the race for the Anambra State governorship election. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview, where we speak to the newsmakers as well as ordinary people doing extraordinary things around the world and featuring the voices at the heart of the stories. I'm Charles Aniagolu. Now, after many months of growing insecurity across Nigeria, the country's Independent National Electoral Commission, or INEC, is getting ready to face major tests as it conducts upcoming elections. The big one this year is in November, governorship elections in Anambra State, and it comes after an upsurge of violence in the state, culminating in a major attack recently on INEC's headquarters there and the burning down of its collation center in the capital, Awka. Many vehicles that INEC officials use for their operations, as well as dozens of electricity generators, were also set alight. So what impact is this likely to have on the governorship elections there, coming up 5 months from now? And the lawyer Godson Okoye, who's a governorship aspirant in Anambra State on the platform of the African Democratic Congress, or ADC, is still with me in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for staying with us. It all sounds very worrying in terms of what is happening with this race. We talked about security being a big issue. How are the people of Anambra State feeling about this election in the current climate of insecurity? Are they excited about the upcoming election?
Well, Anambra people are ordinary, very peaceful people, peace-loving, and but very business-minded, and they want to go about their business without let or hindrance. The election normally is a civic duty, and they always look forward to participating discharging of their rights as citizens of the country. So they are looking forward to it. Yeah, the security situation, yes, is worrisome, but I think at the national and at the state level, things are being done to contain it. And I wouldn't think that 6 months from now or 5 months from now, we're going to be discussing the issue of security.
Right. Well, let's talk about that. You mentioned the national level. As you assess what's going on in Anambra State, we talked about it being a bellwether for looking at the national elections coming up in 2023. As you assess that upcoming election in your state, what are your reflections in terms of the 2023 elections? Are there parallels there?
Well, for everything revolves for election. It revolves around INEC and the willingness of government at both state and federal level to allow INEC a free hand in the conduct of the election. And of course, INEC itself being very prepared and very ready with very clear system of voting and very clear ways of collecting results and transmitting same.
Yeah, but INEC themselves have said that they are worried about how things are going to go if they continue the way that they're going.
Yeah, definitely. As a department within the state, they should be worried. They are individuals, they are human beings. They're going to deploy their staff. They're going to be involved, and of course, they should be worried that these things are happening. But I think down the line, they're going to also have some security briefing. They're going to interface with all the security agencies. And of course, the state government will be also reassuring them of what they can do and what they're going to do. And I'm sure they are beginning to do some of them. And I think at the federal level too, there will be that kind of interface where INEC will be assured that these things are safe.
But what do you think is behind the violence in Anambra?
Well, the issue, it just didn't start today. It's something that's been building over a period of time. It's just that it just seemed to have blown over at this time. But it's something that has been happening. And I think it will have been nipped in the bud, like I said, if there had been engagement, if there had been dialogue, if there had been discussion, we will have been able to diffuse this kind of pressure that just seemed to explode all of a sudden. It just didn't start today. And that's why, like I keep saying, the apparatus of state needs to be engaged and needs to be down to earth in dealing with some of these things. We shouldn't be reacting to incidents.
No, I understand that, but what is your sense?
Prevent them from happening in the first place.
What is your sense of where it is coming from? Because IPOB have said on several occasions, that's the separatist group, that they're not behind the violence. There's been some speculation that it may be politicians who are behind it. What is your sense of where that might have originated?
I don't see what any particular politician in Anambra says, whether you want to be governor.
Well, I mean, politics in Nigeria have always been violent.
That you stand to gain by engaging in this kind of act. And if IPOB says that they are not part of it or they are not behind it, and that's why I was talking about apparatus of state, then the state security outfit should be able to fish out with it, or in fact have a handle. And like I said, it's because it's been ignored over a period of time. So they seem to be taken aback by what has just happened. Now, if they've been on it, they should have had a file on individuals. IPOB members are not spirits, they are human beings. And of course, they say who they are. And like the incident that happened, they say, okay, we didn't do this. And if they didn't do that, it is for the state to find out who actually did that and bring them to book. Because if you profile a particular group and the only thing that happens, you say is them, you are not helping yourself. Because there may be other people that are hiding behind them that will study their models and then create problems. And that will be more dangerous. Because if you don't have a handle on what is happening, you don't have any kind of inkling where these things are coming from, it will be shocking. The apparatus of state should be up in arms to have, okay, there is this other group that is not even IPOB. We have a file on them. We know who they are. And there is this other group that are mischief makers that are doing this. They should be able to have all these things and work with the citizens. And it is when you do that that the people are reassured they are doing something. But when you just sit down somewhere and say, oh, it's these people that did it. What if they are not the people that did it? What if it's even people from outside that are doing it? But we need to rejig the security apparatus of the country. And I've always said, first and foremost, we don't have enough personnel. And it's not that we don't have like source from which to draw from. We have a lot of qualified people that should be there. A country like Nigeria, you're talking about less than 500,000 policemen. That is scandalous.
Right.
And then the people that are in DSS are even fewer. And in the end, in any case, how many of them go to crime fighting or investigation? Most of them are attached to VIPs.
Let's move slightly away from Anambra State and take up the theme that you've been, going through there, which is more on the national level. What is the predominant issue in Nigeria today? Is it law and order versus insecurity? Is it the economy or growing ethnic divisions, etc.? Which is the top of the pecking order in this country?
Well, if you ask me, like they will say in the exams, all of the above. But let me also say this. A country is always rated by the size of their army, the strength of their laws, and the size of their economy. And the indices for now are not very nice. We should have laws that you can implement, laws that are effective, not laws that are programmed to catch a particular sect, a particular group. Laws are supposed to be instruments of social engineering. And you need to deploy it in that line. And when you deploy it just to target a few people or punish a few and reward the other ones, you're clapping with one hand.
Is that the perception?
That is the perception, and that's part of the problem.
Right.
And then the economy is not doing well. And there is no economy that will ever work if you don't have small businesses. There must be conscious effort by government to encourage small businesses. There is a limit to the kind of businesses the government can do. And the modus of operation of our Nigerian government when they get involved in business is not even good. Therefore, what they should do is try to provide basic infrastructure. Even in the business setting, you provide the infrastructure and then let private people move in and the development kicks in from there. Because the job creation you're talking about is not rocket science. If you go into the field of education, there are ways you will work with the education sector and you create the jobs right there. There is a way you work with the banking sector and you create jobs there. And there's a way you work with the property area and you create jobs. And then you go into transportation and you create jobs. How many rails are we talking about in the country? Where and where are the rails? And rail still remains the cheapest and the easiest means of moving goods and services.
So
therefore, given the way the things are, the security situation is not good, it's not encouraging. And of course, in that situation, I don't see how many investors are going to come from outside, unless you're going to have mercenaries that will come. Instead of investing, they take the ones you have and go. And then the army is not very okay. For me, the size is not enough. If I have the opportunity, there's no way we will not have at least 500,000 soldiers. There's no way we will not have at least 1 million policemen. That's for starters. And of course, by the time you do that, you also remove potential criminals from the streets because they are positively engaged in crime fighting and provision of security.
Right.
And security is going to be operated in the way that citizens are going to be part of it.
Right. But clearly that hasn't happened. It
hasn't happened.
So given the fact that it hasn't happened and given all the other things you talked about, the economy and so on and so forth, what are you expecting to happen in that 2023 election? Do you expect it to be a bruising contest between the parties, another bloodbath, ethnic conflict, and that sort of thing?
I don't foresee a bloodbath. I don't foresee that. And of course, there are steps that are being taken. And of course, most times, government processes are slow. But I hope and I believe with the things I'm seeing between now and 2022.
Well, I'm trying to be clear on what you're saying, because on the one hand, you're saying that these things are not happening, and there's no way you're going to recruit a million soldiers, a million policemen between now and 2023. And then on the other hand, you're saying that you're happy with the pace of the way things are going.
I am not saying I'm happy where we are now, but I know the people in government are not sleeping, and they are not like saying, oh, go to hell. They are doing things, but like I said, the pace of government is always slow. But that's, having said that, I'm not saying we're okay with the way we are, no. But things are being done, and things are going to be done between now and next year that will obviate the kind of
we'll have to wait and see what those things are.
But they are always slow.
But just moving beyond that, do you expect, for example, that the zoning of the presidential candidates in the main political parties will contribute to insecurity in this country?
Well, it's going to, if it's not properly zoned or if it's not properly aligned, there will always be disaffection.
What do you mean by properly zoned?
I mean, properly, like you say, if it goes this way, it goes that way. I mean, you could zone the 6 zones. You could also zone north and south. These are all principles. And the different parties will adopt the one they want. And there are those that may say, okay, they don't want any kind of zoning. Like in Anambra State now. It's an official, it's something that is unofficial. But there is that kind of zoning too. Just like it's been zoned to this South Senatorial Zone where I come from. You know, so there's that kind of agreement. It doesn't mean that some people will not come from the north and say they want to have a shot at it. But the thing is, majority of the parties that want to win that seat will zone it to that side, and the people will make their choice. But it's not as if it is zoned to this side, the people are going to take up arms and say, we're not going to agree and then we're going to shoot our way through. No. What will happen going forward? The people in politics are not that insensitive. There will come a time, but the only thing is that sometimes they want to wait, they want to try out people, they want to test the waters, they want to push people to a limit and then they take a decision. But I believe the issue of zoning is very key. I believe zoning should have solved the political problem, at least some of them. And by zoning, I mean it is going to be an arrangement agreed to by the political parties. If we say the presidency goes to the south, all the parties should pick their candidate from the south and pick their deputies from the north. And if we say, okay, it's going to go north, all the parties will pick their candidates there. At least we'll try this for a provisional period of 36 years. And if we do that, we are going to stabilize more because everything revolves around politics. Well, if we don't get our politics right, the economy can never be right.
Okay, it looks like there's going to be a lot more discussion.
Of course, definitely. There will have to be.
Godson Okoye, governorship aspirant in Anambra State on the platform of the African Democratic Congress. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Charles.